In this video, I want to compare me and Noah Leibowitz's travels over the last year, but because of exact days of difference, I'm going to broaden the scope and say anything from February 15th, 2022 through March 1st, 2023 is fair game. So we can include both of these February vacations. I know in my case, I've usually gotten lucky and was able to fit it into an exact period. In this case though, I can't wiggle around it. So first of all, we have to understand where we've both come from. Before this, I hadn't actually quite left the country yet, but I had been to 24 American states. Noah's actually been to like 5 different countries, and our country total would both increase over the duration of these months as we would both go to Canada for the first time. Technically, I had left the country on a UN tour on February 21st, 2018, but yet it remains in the fuzzy gray zone. What you'll see is that Noah has traveled more than me during the video, and you'll see that, but the first trip actually belongs to me. February 19th to 24th, 2022 was a new kind of trip for me, as I had gone to places I'd never been before. February 20th, in fact, still marks the farthest north and the farthest west and the farthest from my house that I've ever managed to reach in Vancouver, British Columbia. The trip began by flying out to Seattle on February 19th. And you know, that was the start of it. We landed at about 3 o'clock Pacific after taking off about 12 o'clock Eastern. Note that there was a 3-hour time gap. And we had dinner at this weird place. I don't remember where it was. As is normal when we're scrambling on vacation to find dinner. It was, you know, not exactly the most planned out first day, but that happens sometimes. A big part of Seattle is us trying to go to bed earlier than normal, and on the first and last day we were successful by falling asleep before 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific. This is because of time delay. Us want to stay as close to New York time as possible, but actually wound up being only at mountain time. And some days were really bad, like February 20th, where it was past 11, and February 22nd, where it was past 10. February 21st kind of landed in the middle with a 9:30 p.m. bedtime. It was also incredibly hard to actually stay asleep, as our internal body clocks kept having us get up around 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific, thinking that we were still in New York. Jet lag hit us hard on this trip. It just really did. February 20th, we left Seattle about 8 o'clock in the morning on our way up to Vancouver, which we didn't make it to until noon, thanks to the fact that Vancouver has no highways. So we were forced to take congested side streets up through the entire city to get to the aquarium. Actually, did we leave it? I think we might have left it like 8:30. So we went up the I-5 until it became British Columbia 99. And while we made 2 pit stops, they were both before crossing into British Columbia. Once in British Columbia, we went to the aquarium. We didn't even make it into the aquarium until 12:40. We had to have lunch. And then we left the aquarium at about 2:30 and saw the sights of Vancouver. We decided to leave at 3:30, but that was a fatal mistake because we had to go through the entirety of Vancouver. We stopped at the duty-free shop in Abbotsford. By the time we even made it to the border, it was 5:10, but we didn't make it through until 6:30 due to the extreme lines and the poor border control facility. Apparently at 6 o'clock, they do a switch, so for 10 minutes, nobody was getting through. There weren't enough lanes, and there was too much congestion, which is actually usually a problem at the Peace Arch border crossing. So, if you do go the drive from Seattle to British Columbia, take just a little bit of a detour to get yourself around it. It will help you. It will. From there, we still had to eat dinner, and we just went to Bellingham, Washington from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And from there, it was a final 90-minute straight shot back to Seattle, arriving back at 10 p.m. My first day in Canada was not very planned out, and for one critical reason. International border crossings do not work so well on day trips. They just really don't work so well on day trips. They kind of have to be in the overnight variety because it just takes so much time to cross the border. You can't do them on day trips. February 21st was a lot calmer of a day. We went up to Everett, Washington to see the Boeing factory, and then we wound up going to Pike's Place and a Space Needle. The Space Needle was over 500 feet tall. From there, on the 22nd, we went down to Portland. So we had to go down I-5. Portland is farther than Vancouver, but it was a lot less stressful because there's no border crossing to Oregon from Washington. So even though it was a long drive, and we still didn't get back until after 9 o'clock, but it wasn't as bad simply because of where Oregon is. And we actually have to do more stuff there, but we did not get to eat a true lunch. That's because on the way down, we wanted to stop at Mount St. Helens, found out it was closed. But we found out that even a visitor center was closed, therefore we had to go back. So we had to snack at a Burger King. I think it was in Castle of the Rock, Washington. And then we proceeded down to Tryon Brookings State Recreational Area. The Pacific Northwest is known for its naturey stuff, but we got the short end of the stick by going in February. And I doubt we're going to make it back there for quite a while. So we went to that area, and then we went to the Oregon Museum of Science, which did not have real food. We wound up leaving at about 4 o'clock, and it was, again, a long drive up. We had to have dinner in Tacoma, but it wasn't quite as bad simply because of the fact that, not quite as far. The 23rd, we stayed solely within Seattle. And we went to the museum, the Mohi Museum of History and Industry. And then at 3 p.m. we had our University of Washington tour. My first ever college tour. We happened to be in the area around it. And I did have an interest in going to the school. And so we toured the school. I even got to see a direct view of Mount Rainier, something that that you don't get to see very often. The school actually bought the rights to the view of Mount Rainier, so no building can be built to obstruct that view. And February 24th, we flew back. We had quite a brutal 9 a.m. flight flying home. But it wasn't quite as bad because, getting up at 4:30 a.m. is certainly no fun. When it's 3 hours ahead, when it's 3 hours behind, it really felt more like 6 o'clock. So it was a lot easier to get up and get going. That process of getting home was certainly less painful, but we didn't get back home until, after dinner time because we landed about 5 o'clock p.m. We made it back home like in the mid 6 o'clock time frame. So now that I've out-traveled myself, it's Noah's turn. He would go on a quick trip from June 25th to June 28th. He would be touring the University of Maryland in Baltimore and the University of Pennsylvania at Philadelphia. He would go in Baltimore and Philadelphia. I don't know if he's ever been to Baltimore before because he wasn't on our camp trip that took us to Baltimore back in August 2019. I know he's been to Philadelphia before, though, and I would assume he's been to Baltimore before. June 29th to 30th was kind of a junk camp trip out to Camelback. July 5th to 8th was a failure of a camp trip, but it was because our bus broke down in Dayton, New Jersey, stranding us there from 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. So while the other group had enough time to go to the Norfolk shopping area and then go to the ghost tour at Williamsburg, we lacked that amount of time. Eventually it became so dangerously hot on the bus, because the AC was also broken, that we evacuated the bus. And while certainly 87 degrees with a heat index of 89 is not pleasant, it was a lot better than being stuck on that bus. Still, people who are wearing bus clothes that are usually heavier than what they normally wear in the summer were not exactly in the most comfortable position during this time, but it was only an hour and it was only 87 degrees. July 6th we went to Busch Gardens. July 7th we went to the beach at Virginia Beach and into a minor league baseball game in Richmond, Virginia. That was kind of pointless because the Flying Squirrels don't know how to play baseball and they lost to the Fighting Phils 5-3. And then on July 8th we went back up, but this time we actually did get to stop at the Biden Welcome Center in Newark, Delaware. But I've been to Delaware before, and I've also assumed that Noah's been to Delaware before this. Actually, think that I can't then stop there last year. But I still think that he's been to the Biden Welcome Center in Newark, Delaware. Now, the next trip was from July 11th to 15th, and it would pose something new for both of us. For Noah, July 11th was the first time he's ever been to Canada. And for me, it was my first time ever going to Eastern Canada, specifically in Ontario. So we would both get something new out of this trip. We crossed after the Maid of the Mist boat tour at Niagara Falls. Despite getting there at 5, the tour wasn't until 6. And because we had dinner at the Hard Rock Cafe, we wound up not getting back onto the bus to cross at 8 o'clock. We wound up making it through at about 8:40. I tried to take a picture of the Welcome to Ontario sign, but I missed the angle because taking pictures on the bus is hard. I didn't get a lot of good pictures on the bus, but I got some good pictures. We then were in Ontario. We made it to the hotel at about 10 o'clock. It was a lot of pain because I tried to not use AT&T's plan of charging international data while abroad by not using data roaming. But unfortunately, I had no choice but to use data roaming because of the fact that I couldn't connect to any of the Wi-Fi networks in Canada until doing so, which actually added a $30 charge, but whatever. We went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Ontario Science Museum, and the Blue Jays game on July 12th. And there was actually severe thunderstorms rolling through. So the temperature peaked at about 80 degrees. Severe thunderstorms moved through and cooled the area off. Then on July 13th, it was actually quite chilly going out to Canada's Wonderland in Vagon. And if you didn't feel the chill earlier on, it was definitely a lot more apparent by 6:50 p.m. as the temperature slid down into the 60s and cloud cover was intensifying. And I found it chilly the whole day. July 14th, we crossed back into the United States. And we went to the Six Flags at Darien Lake before going to Lasertron in Rochester. But unlike last year, this time we would actually sleep in Rochester. And June 15th was dedicated to getting us home from Rochester. We completely overwhelmed a rest stop at the Thruway in Ulster by forcing an hour-long line. So good job, camp. We overwhelmed the gas station yet again. Yeah, if you're at a gas station and you see a whole bunch of people, if you have to use the bathroom, I'd still say go for it. But if you were trying to get food there, you might want to try somewhere else. Those lines are longer than they seem, and they seem ferocious. July 18th to 22nd will provide something new for Noah, but not really for me. That's because on July 18th, we went to the Sandusky to the Kalahari in Sandusky, Ohio. And while Noah hadn't been to Ohio before, I had on August 22nd, 2021, from an extension on my Pittsburgh trip. That being said, I'd never been to that part of Ohio, so I guess that was a new experience. July 19th was the day we also made it to Chicago and went up the Willis Tower, both of which I'd already done before 6 years earlier. July 20th, we also did more stuff around Chicago, but no Cubs game due to it being the MLB All-Star Week. And, and I tell you about the Blue Jays games I saw in Toronto. If I didn't, then now it's to mention. And then, yeah, on July 21st, we had to go from the hotel in Toledo that we made it to the previous day, all the way down to Hershey Park, and then back down to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, which, fun fact, is in the Baltimore, Washington area. And then the 22nd, we made it back to Hershey Park before coming back home. The final part of the trip is something that everyone's done before, but the first part of the trip was actually a new experience for some people. July 25th to 29th. Did that give new states to Noah? No. Because he'd already been to North Carolina for the first time on July 26th, 2021, and to South Carolina for the first time on August 2nd, 2021. It would have been August 1st, but we didn't make it to the hotel until after the clock struck midnight. Therefore, his feet could not touch the ground of South Carolina until after midnight, therefore qualifying it for August 2nd. The trip was largely dedicated around South Carolina, but on July 28th, we went to the Carolines, which stretches across both states. We also slept in Midlothian, Virginia from the 25th to 26th, and from the 28th to 29th. Oh, we went back to the Biden Welcome Center. We also went to a Six Flags in Maryland on July 25th, and there was severe thunderstorms during the trip, largely to coincide with the fact that a heat wave was finally being broken. In some areas, temperatures did hit the 90s on the 25th for either the 7th or 8th consecutive day in a row. But in other places, the temperature failed to hit 90 degrees before the storm was plowed through, which ended the heat wave. Now, August 1st to 12th was actually where I got the most new stuff. I'd never been to the Southwest US, so August 1st was my first time ever being in Arizona. August 3rd was me and Noah's first time ever being in California, and August 3rd also marked my first time ever being in California. Noah's actually been to both the LA and San Francisco areas, but he never made it down to San Diego, which our camp would do on August 10th. But there was a lot of stuff that we did on the California trip that he already done, but I never got to have the chance to do yet. So it was interesting. And there was some new stuff for him, but not a lot of it. Like Las Vegas, because he'd never been to Nevada before, and neither did I. Also, with that trip, that meant I'd now been to the 5 regions of the United States, according to the almanac that I used to read. The Northeast, which is where I was born. The Southeast, which I first made it to in 2008. The Midwest, which I first made it to in 2016. The West, which I first made it to in February 2022. And the Southwest, which I made it to in August of 2022. Oh, and P.S., just so you know, that on the trip, I'm losing my words. I really just can't talk anymore. But yeah, that's about those trips. But traveling wouldn't be over. From August 18th to 23rd, I would embark on a trip first up to Montreal to get my next Canadian province, and on August 20th we would make it down to Vermont. First stopping at the Vermont Teddy Bear Factory, and then going to the Ben & Jerry's factory. We got a tour of the Teddy Bear Factory, but the Ben & Jerry's factory was totally sold out by the time we went. Camp was supposed to take us in 2020, but COVID then struck. And while New Hampshire and Maine were open to tourists during August anyway, Vermont was not. So that's why we didn't get to go to Vermont for a while. But now we can finally go again. Albeit it would be state number 20, it would be state number 30, not 21. We went to the Green Mountain National Forest on August 21st and to Quechee Gorge on August 22nd. We wanted to go to the Calvin Coolidge State Park, but it was rained out, except it wasn't really. Then on August 23rd, we had to leave the hotel at 7:45 a.m., which involved getting up at 6:30 a.m., in order to make a SUNY Albany tour at noon. Hilariously, though, we wound up getting there at 10:15 in the morning, and also being struck by heavy rains in Albany that threatened to cancel the tour. However, the tour went on anyway. Albeit, unlike Chicago, they did not give out free ponchos. Oh yeah, speaking of which, Noah was on a college tour in the Midwest from August 15th to 23rd. His flight was supposed to be on the 22nd, but he wound up having to fly back on the 23rd. No matter what he did, if he had taken a connection, he still would have gone back very early in the morning on the 23rd while denying his sleep. First, he went to St. Louis. He saw the Gateway Arch, and he went to Washington University. And then on August 18th, he flew to Chicago. He got to see both Cardinals and Cubs games. Well, I got to see no sports games on my trip, although in California, we would see a Dodgers game. While he was in Chicago on the 22nd, he was supposed to fly back, so he was stuck in the airport hotel for a night, and he had to pay for it out of pocket. Then on August 26th through 30th, he went on a trip upstate, going to Watkins Glen State Park and also touring some colleges up there, going to places like Rochester and Elmira and Binghamton. But he'd already been to upstate before, although I don't know if he's been to that part of upstate before. He's driven through, but I don't know if he's ever actually been there. December 24th to 30th, I went down to Florida, and while I had been to Florida numerous times before, I never actually managed to make my way down to the Miami area, which we went to on December 26th. We saw a Miami Heat NBA game. We went to the Everglades National Park on December 28th. So that was new. And now in February, not to the exact dates, Noah's going to National in Atlanta. He's been to Atlanta before, but he's never actually been to Tennessee before, so this is a new state for him.